Hello and welcome to the World Extreme Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Stephen P. Wood. I am an acute care nurse practitioner in Boston, Massachusetts, an EMT, SWAT medic, World Extreme Medicine fellow, and adventure enthusiast. And I'm joined here today by Luke Huntley, who I had the pleasure of speaking to at our latest World Extreme Medicine 2021 conference, both in Edinburgh, Scotland, but also virtual worldwide. And I wanted to carry over our conversation on his role as a snake catcher in Australia. We were limited to just 40 minutes and we had so much more to cover. So I'm welcoming Luke today from Noosa, Australia. I'm in Boston. It's early here, it's late there, but we'll do our best to trudge through, Luke. So Luke, I wanted to welcome you. Thank you so much for joining us at the World Extreme Medicine Conference recently, and thanks for joining me today. I want to start with asking you, how did you become a snake catcher?
I have been a snake catcher for the last 6 years. I've been catching snakes basically my whole life, but as a professional snake catcher for the last 6 years. So yeah, part of the legal side of things, I had to get what's called a damage mitigation permit. A damage mitigation permit, which basically is like a snake catcher license. And it, you go and do a bit of training, and I got really, really, really lucky. I actually had trained me, and he was sort of like a bit of a mentor to me. He was really, really good. He lived about probably 40 minutes away. And then there's another snake catcher who I watch and who has mentored me as well, and he has been absolutely fantastic. So I've learned a lot from them, and obviously a lot from trial and error. Definitely learning along the way that I am today.
So when you say you have to get a damage mitigation certificate, is there any formal training that snake catchers have to go through, or is it just that you're attesting that you've done this, you've had a mentor, or is there some sort of formal process for all of this?
No, look, there definitely is a formal process, a legal requirement. So in order to get a damage mitigation permit, so it's issued by the Environmental Heritage Protection, which is basically a department of the Queensland government. Actually, it's different in each state, but we're specifically talking about Queensland here. And basically, you have to do a venomous snake handling course. Apply for your damage mitigation permit, basically online, and you have to have your first aid done as well. Once it gets granted, you are able to become a snake catcher and start advertising, and start doing snake calls professionally. So every 3 months you have to do what's called a return of operations. So basically every single snake you're catching, you have to record where you catch it, and of course where you're taking the snake to. So there is a bit of a legal side to it as well. You can't just suddenly become a snake catcher and get out there and go and do it. You have to definitely have all the relevant paperwork in place.
And when you say take the snake elsewhere, are there designated areas for the release of these snakes? Does Queensland and other parts of Australia, how do they designate where these snakes are being basically repatriated?
Yeah, so look, definitely. There are, so basically on our permit, it basically says the snake is to be relocated to the nearest suitable bit of bushland. So as long as, you obviously can't drop it on people's properties. I mean, why would you do that anyway? It's not like some people make jokes about that actually, because you just sling it over someone's fence and, they'll give you that's obviously, very unethical, and I've never done that, but you don't know whether or not that person's going to kill the snake with a shovel. And some people do. So if you, chuck a snake over someone's fence, I'm just going to get another call, there's a possibility that person might be one of those people who doesn't call a snake catcher. They just run to their shed and pick out the shovel or whatever implement they use to kill them. So no, we definitely pick our spots quite carefully. So where we take the release location is really important. So you have to make sure that the environment is very similar to where you've caught it from. So if it's you've caught it on like a hillside that's facing east, you need to take it to a hillside in the bush. Usually, like, I go within about 5 kilometers, so it's not too far away, but it's not too close. So it's far enough away that the snake's not going to come back, but it's also not too far away that the snake's going to of relocation. So basically, snakes, it's called snake translocation, and there's all these different studies done on snake translocation, and basically that if you, for example, so I caught a snake that spent its whole life living in the sand dunes of, say, Sunshine Beach, which is just on the beach near Noosa, and I took it all the way inland, like 20 kilometers, and dumped it out west, where there's farms and creeks, and the environment's completely different. That snake's going to have a way, way, way lower chance of survival simply because it's not used to that environment. So we have to make sure we're taking them to state forests, nature, meant to take them to national parks because they're like considered to be like delicate ecosystems. However, if you catch a snake that's next to the house is next to the national park, for example, you can just take the snake back to the national park, and it's going to be absolutely fine. So yeah, we've got a bit. The only legislation is take it to the nearest suitable bit of bushland. So every snake that I catch in really, really, really seriously to try and make sure the snake's got the best possible chance of survival, but also that the snake's not going to come back. And I'm doing the best thing by the people that have called me as well.
Oh, that's interesting. I honestly wouldn't have thought about kind of relocating a snake to its similar environment, and that seems to make sense. Which brings me, I guess, to the next question, which would be, and it probably varies by snake, and we'll get into what the different types of snakes you're dealing with there are. But what's the range of these snakes? How far, might they travel? Do they stay fairly local once relocated? Or, do they travel? And what's their range?
That's a really good question. Yeah. And actually, it does vary. So, obviously, depending on the place where you release the snake, if there's a lot of food and water for the snake, they're obviously going to thrive and they're not going to need to travel too far. Now, during breeding season, is from September to November, so our spring, Australian spring, female snakes start ovulating. So they basically, it's like when a dog goes on heat. When a female dog goes on heat, there's a scent that goes in the air and it attracts all the boys. So when a female snake is ovulating, she's bringing in all the boys. Now, those male snakes can travel up to 20 kilometers looking for a female. Now, most of the time, they're not going to travel that far because there's obviously going to be way more females between him and 20 kilometers away. However, some snakes, they did a study down south on tiger snakes. Now, different snake species are different. However, I believe that the same principle will definitely apply here. Is they tagged a whole heap of tiger snakes living around this one area, and they left them, and those snakes had never been relocated before. They grew up in that area, and they had a home range of 5 square kilometers. The relocated snakes, they thrived. The ones that had been caught, like on snake calls and relocated away from people's houses, those snakes had almost exactly the same survival rate, and they thrived. However, their home range extended to 20 square kilometers. So what we're kind of seeing in these relocated snakes is they, generally speaking, will travel a bit. The case, because obviously some snakes, like I was saying before, when you pick your spot, if you pick the right spot, they're not going to need to travel. Like if I was to drop a snake out west in the middle of nowhere with nothing around, that snake's going to have to travel. But if you're releasing them near creeks and, like freshwater rivers, and they've got water, there's plenty of food around, near farmland, and we're talking huge farms here, like massive, millions of hectares farms. And there's plenty of rats and mice and plenty of food. Those snakes aren't going to have to travel that far, so they're going to be able to stay within a shorter range and still thrive and have the best chance of survival.
So that's incredible. I didn't realize a snake would have that kind of range. 20 kilometers is an incredible range, but I guess you're looking for a girlfriend, then you'll go anywhere, right? That's the definition of a long distance relationship, especially, for these cute Aussie snakes, for sure.
Well, I've flown to the UK. I flew to the UK for a girl. So
I hear you. Yeah. So we're talking about snakes. Let's talk about actually the types of snakes that you're working with. I know that that's going to vary through different parts of Australia, and maybe you can speak to that as well. But what are the more common snakes that you're dealing with, and what are some of the features of those snakes that our audience might be interested in hearing about?
Yeah, look, absolutely. So, look, we are on the Sunshine Coast. We're really, really lucky. We've got about 25 species of snake. There's actually a couple more, but, for the most part, we see regularly. So it is a bit seasonal as well. So the most common snake all year round that we do get are carpet pythons. So carpet pythons are a non-venomous constrictor. So, yeah, obviously they're ambush predators. So they'll basically wait in trees, sneak up into chicken coops, grab chickens while they're sleeping, sit up in trees waiting for birds to fly past, and very patient hunters. They're obviously non-venomous. However, a bite from a carpet python really hurts still. Like, I've been bitten by heaps of pythons over the years, and it's not the bite itself can be quite bad, but mostly it's not. It's it's if they break any teeth off, or often what they're eating, all that stuff from the rotten food stays on their teeth. So when it can get really infected. So, I'm talking to you, so you obviously know all the infections and like dog bites. It's like kind of like, it's not as bad as a dog bite. Like, I know dog bites are really bad. But if you can get a seriously nasty infection from a snake bite, from a non-venomous snake bite. So carpet pythons are, generally speaking, pretty reluctant to bite. If you annoy them, or you're trying to whack how to go at them, obviously they're going to want to defend themselves. I've had to go on antibiotics. I've had teeth surgically removed from my hand before, and it's been really, really interesting. There's plenty of carpet pythons around. Basically, carpet pythons are my bread and butter. Without carpet pythons, I wouldn't be able to be a snake catcher, just because, they're basically the ones that most people call up about. Eastern brown snakes are a venomous land animal, and there are plenty of them around as well. So from in breeding season, so September to November, so spring, our spring anyway, the eastern brown snakes go crazy, especially in October. I find October for me is when I get between 1 and 4 brown snakes a day. My record was 7 brown snakes. Now, some snake catchers in Australia who are in areas where eastern brown snakes are species, that's not that high a number. Like some of them will literally get like 10 brown snakes in a day. Thankfully for me, my most common is carpet pythons, but I get enough brown snakes to keep me happy. If I don't catch a brown snake in a week, if I get them all the time, I start getting tired, because they're the world's second most venomous snake, land snake. A single drop of venom can kill 16 healthy men, so they're really, really venomous. But of course, their venom's not designed to take us on. It's to, when they bite a rat or a mouse, it immobilizes that rat and mouse so fast. So I've actually watched an eastern brown hunt in a shed before. And I arrived, and the lady's like, "Oh, look, it's eating all the rats and mice. Like, I really want the snake gone, but should we just let it eat as many?" And I said, yeah, absolutely. Let's just see how many it gets. We sat there for 10 minutes and it got killed and ate 6 rats. And it went from being this skinny, still a decent sized brown snake, a pretty skinny snake, to this really, really big, fat, swollen up snake because it was full of 6 rats, which was really, really cool. But it was amazing to see. Absolutely amazing to see. But the most incredible part, not just to see them eating, to see how fast that venom acts on its actual prey. So when you get bit, you'll start feeling symptoms, and you'll start getting a headache, you'll start feeling dizzy, you'll start sweating, and you need to, obviously put a compression bandage on it and go straight to hospital, or get someone to take you to hospital, or call an ambulance. Now, with a rodent, their actual prey, within 5 seconds, it stopped running. Within 10 seconds, the snake's eating it. That's on a prey item. So eastern brown snakes, their venom is absolutely evolved for that specific task, and it's really, really cool to watch. Look, they're an amazing animal. Brown snakes are the most hated snake in Australia by far, because they're obviously really, really venomous, and people's dogs and cats, mainly dogs, find them in their yards. Now, the dog's just doing its job defending the yard, and it doesn't know that the snake's venomous. The snake's not in there to get the dog. The snake's just cruising through. So it's a bit of basically, the dogs met the snake and the snake's met the dog. They have a confrontation. Now, 99% of the time, the dog rips the snake to pieces, but then gets bitten in the process. So obviously, an eastern brown snake's not going to eat a dog, not in a million years. Even a big 6-foot brown snake's not going to eat a dog, but it'll bite the dog and then get killed in the process. And often what happens is, they have to. Now, it's a little bit different with dogs and eastern brown snake venom. So for us, we start processing it, we start feeling stuff really, really, really quickly. However, with dogs and cats, but we're specifically talking about dogs here, they might look like they're having a small symptoms, and then they'll bounce back. And then you will think, oh, no, it's fine, my dog hasn't been bitten. And they for 8 hours and then suddenly drop. And then it's way, way too late. You can't save them by that point. So I always encourage people when they go, oh, can you ID this snake for me? And I'm getting sent a photo of this snake which has been chewed up. And it's, a brown snake. Like, just literally the other day on Saturday, I got a picture of a chewed up brown snake just down the road from here. And I had to say, yeah, look, it's an eastern brown snake. You have to take your dogs to the vet. Explained about the dogs fighting backs and looking fine, and then it being too late. So I've actually had a couple of people over the years ignore my advice to go straight to the vet, and their dogs have died later on. And then they're trying to take their dog to the vet later on, and it's too late. It's incredibly expensive to go to the vet and get antivenin and to do the tests. And for, paying almost $1,000 for the test, depending on the vet you go to, just to see if your dog's been bitten. And then if your dog has been bitten, you could go through thousands of dollars. Like, someone said they paid almost $7,000 and their dog still died. And that's, people have that in the back of their mind. Now, some people around here, most people are, they're fine financially. Most people around here have got plenty, and they'll go straight to the vet. But some people, it's a lot of money, and they won't go to the vet, and unfortunately, their animals suffer for it. So that's why eastern browns have got a really bad rap. Oh yeah, my last dog got bitten by a brown snake, and died. And now, as a snake catcher, I have to deal with that all the time. Now, I've got 2 dogs. I'm sitting here on my sofa, and you won't be able to see this. You'll be able to see this, Stephen. But there you go, my two dogs sleeping on the sofa. And I'm always worried about the dogs and snakes. Like, I'm not fearful. I'm aware of, obviously, that there are snakes around. However, I do worry because I got a border collie and a cattle dog, and it's just in their nature to be very defensive of things that come in the yard, pon over on and try and hug them. But with animals that come into the yard, yeah, they're really, really defensive. And snakes, I've trained them both to be very, very distant with snakes. Like, they'll stay away. However, if I'm not here, I can't control it. And that's definitely something that I really worry about, because as a snake catcher, I have to deal with it all the time. I've gone to jobs where oh, that's right. Now we're talking about it. Yeah, when was it? About a month ago. I got a call from this lady, and she was in hysterics. She was so upset. And she's like, 2 of my dogs have died, and I don't know what it is. And the council says it's a taipan, which is the world's 3rd most venomous snake. And it won't be a taipan. Anyway, I go over there, and both of her dogs were dead. I found one around the side of the house, but it vomited up all this blood and looked like these dog biscuits. Now, I drove past a 1080 bait. Now, 1080 is a canine poison that the council use. A lot of it's a really horrendous poison. Yeah, 1080. It's basically, if the dog eats it, it's dead. You can't save the dog. It's going to die. And I'd gone through, and we went out because I was on North Shore, so we had to get a boat over to this lady's house, and she's like, it just went swimming over there, and I found it on this little island, and her second dog had died, same thing. And I collected a whole heap of these like the blood and the biscuits, and put it into a bag, and I took it to the vet, and they sent it down to this laboratory in Brisbane, and they tested it, and it was actually 1080, not a snake. But that's why I was there. So she was told that, and then obviously that's why I was there. But then anyway, it ended up being 1080. So her dogs had literally gone out and eaten the 1080 bait. But sometimes I do rock up where the person's dog has been bitten and killed by a snake. And it's really, really sad, because you've got this really hysterical person, and then you've got, obviously, someone's dead animal. And I've had that with cats. A lot of people have their cats out. People have their cats outside. Now, in Australia's ecosystem, a cat is an apex predator. And, they will basically kill anything and everything. And they're not evil. They're not evil. It's just in their nature. It's just what they do. They like hunting and playing around with things. It doesn't make them evil. It's just something they naturally do. But in Australia, irresponsible. Now, under Australian law and a lot of council laws, some local councils say, no, you have to have your cats inside. A lot of councils own most of them. The cat has to remain within the confines of your property, which, some people have got massive properties, so it's sort of, they go around roaming. Now, sometimes I get calls where people's cats have been eaten by snakes. I've even had a video of and this cat was already dead, and it was really, really confronting to see.
So we're talking. I mean, certainly, losing a pet, it's a horrific experience, and I'm a pet owner myself. I have 2 cats. who I wouldn't necessarily call apex predators. They certainly respond to me opening their can of food, but that's about as much hunting as they do. What's the threat to human population? It sounds like with the carpet python that would be pretty minimal. Eastern browns, maybe more so. You mentioned a few other snakes as well. What's the incidence of snake bites in your area or human snake interactions that that you've seen?
So our local hospital, actually not Nambour Hospital, which is about 25 minutes away, they get more snake bite admissions than any other hospital in Australia, just because the Sunshine Coast is so perfect for snakes, because it's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's nice and muggy, it's plenty of bushland. So there is a lot of people, and there's a lot of people on the Sunshine Coast. So there is a lot of that's a lot of people. Most people that go to hospital with these snake bites, they're dry bites or they're from harmless snakes. The amount of people that get bitten by highly venomous snakes is really, really, really low. Now, most of these people who do get bitten by the highly venomous ones are trying to kill a snake, or they're trying to catch it themselves, or they're a snake catcher. So most of the time, when unintentionally gets bitten, they're either walking through the bush with bare feet, or they're going through the garden and they're just putting their hands under logs and basically breaking all of the rules about living in Australia safely, and that's how they get bitten. So thankfully, I don't get too many calls, probably about 3 a year, I guess, where I get a call from someone going, "Hey, I just got bitten by this, what's this?" Now, in my whole career, I've only had one person who's been bitten by a brown snake and called me going, "Hey, I got bitten by this snake," sends me a photo, "I'm not feeling too well." Now, I'm wasting that time. Like, if you've been bitten by something you don't know, you just go straight to hospital. But, you can't teach everyone common sense. And, people react in different ways, and some people just don't get it. Or they just don't want to go to hospital. But yeah, a lot of the time they are harmless snakes. Or when I say harmless, I mean they're non-venomous. So a lot of people and tree snakes, which are another harmless species of snake, and they don't know what it is, of course, and they'll go straight to hospital. And people have to get all their blood tests and so on, because a lot of people, when they get bitten by a snake, they don't know what they're getting bitten by. So for me, obviously, or for other snake catchers, if we get bitten by it, we're like, "Oh, yep, that's fine." Or a couple of times I've been into hospital with venomous snake bites. I've gone, "This is the snake," and then they know exactly which antivenin to use. But they got a general antivenin as well. It's called polyvent antivenin, which is just like a general one. It basically covers all bases. So yeah, if you're not sure what you've been bitten by and they do all the blood tests and they can't narrow it down to one particular snake, they will give you polyvent antivenin. It knocks you around, but it does the job. I haven't had it, thankfully, but I know a few people who have, and it's quite rough.
So speaking of which, do you carry a medical kit with you? Do you have supplies that you carry with you on these calls in case you're bitten, or in case someone's bitten when you arrive? What do you carry with you?
Yeah, so look, only hospitals are allowed to administer antivenin. So yeah, if a lot of the time when you get bitten by a snake, they'll do your blood test and they'll monitor you, and they will only give you antivenin if you're going down. Otherwise, they'll just keep monitoring you. So we don't carry any antivenin. However, we do absolutely carry a compression bandage. So the compression bandages, proper snake bandages, are made with these little printout rectangles on the bandage. So basically, when you're putting the bandage on, you're pulling it to the tension that rectangle stretches and becomes a square tension. So you don't want to cut the circulation off. You want to slow it down. So, I mean, most snakes in Australia, most venomous snakes in Australia have got really short fangs. So when they bite you, all they're doing is getting in your skin. So obviously, you know, that's still going to get you. And then obviously you're absorbing it. It goes into your lymphatic system, and then it goes up to your lymph node, and then gets pumped around your body. But the whole point in a compression, the circulation, it's to slow down that trickle of venom coming up. Because the whole point is, otherwise, you know, if it's too tight, the paramedics are just going to take the bandage straight off and go, nope, you're going to lose your hand, or you're going to lose your foot, or whatever part of your body you've tied up, because you're like, oh, I want to stop it, and your hand's going purple because you've tied a bandage so tight. You know, that's what blood poisoning, you know, you have to. That's why the snake bandage, the compression bandages are really important. Basically, if you don't have a compression, like a proper compression bandage with the square, the rectangles that become the squares, how I describe it to people, because obviously not everyone has one of them, I describe it like a firm handshake. Not too tight, not a really weak handshake, just like how I describe it, a handshake going, how are you, mate? That kind of handshake. It's like kind of firm but not too tight. And basically have the bandage. But yeah, that's all we really carry. That's all we need. If we get bitten, it's take me to hospital, please, or call for in Australia, call 000. It's come and grab me.
It's not. I remember as a kid growing up watching a show called The Lone Ranger, and I remember one of them was bitten by a rattlesnake, and they sucked the venom out of the wound, and we know that that's not exactly fruitful and quite dangerous. Do you encounter people doing any of these kind of things that really don't have any scientific basis? Do you find people who've been bitten by snakes that are trying, like you mentioned, placing a tourniquet or trying to suction out the venom? Have you seen that in your experience?
I got two very unusual occurrences. So the first one's not from it was not from someone. It was from someone I did a call for, but he came. It was actually the lady's dad who by a red belly black snake, and he put coconut oil on the bite because he did that with a spider bite, and he said it numbed the pain. It did something else, and anyway, it definitely didn't work. He said it didn't work, and he started feeling sick, and then he started vomiting, and he was sweating, and it's just like, really, coconut oil on a snake bite didn't work. I'm surprised. That was one particular thing, and I have had someone say that they said, oh, we tried to suck the venom out of the bite, and I guess people see things when they're a kid, or they like watch an old movie, and it goes in their head, and then they panic and they don't know what to do, so they just do something like that. Binge snake bite treatment methods that I've come across.
So I guess I can take the coconut oil out of my personal kit then, if that's no longer no evidence supporting that. Although it's great to cook with, I'll say that. So
definitely.
I think I know the answer to this. Yeah, I know the answer to this, and but I just kind of want to reiterate it, for our listening audience. What do you feel is the biggest threat to the snake populations in Australia? What do you feel is kind of the biggest concern for their survival and their coexistence here, in our world?
Honestly, cats. Outdoor cats, slaughter them. Having an indoor cat or having a cat in a climate that's not rife with wildlife, cats, I don't get me wrong, I used to have a pet cat, and little souled creature, and she was an indoor cat. So she didn't go outside just because it was too near the road, and also I didn't want her to go out and hunt stuff. But lots of people have them out, and they kill everything. And, you know, there's a lot of attitudes. It's like, oh, my cat wouldn't hurt anything. It wouldn't do anything. But it's like, are you watching your cat 24/7? Like, I was out the other night at Conondale, and we saw a cat. Now, not every cat out in the bush is someone's pet. Feral cats are a massive, massive problem. Feral cats are the number one cause of loss of wildlife in Australia. There's millions of them, and they breed quickly, and they survive. They're the ultimate survivors. You know, land development pushes snakes. However, Brisbane snake catchers are so busy, even in suburban areas, because people attract rats and mice. Frogs learn how to live in drains and in people's gutters, and people have water features, and there's underground drainage systems, and basically everything's connected so snakes can thrive. But what they can't survive against is a cat. And look, dogs do it as well, but cats will go actively out looking for stuff to hunt. It's an estimated 550 million reptiles a year in Australia are killed by cats. So that's just reptiles. That's a lot of animals. You know, the death toll to feral cats and to cats, mainly feral cats, is ridiculous. So it is hard to talk about because people love their cats. And I find it hard to talk about it too because I don't want to be the bad guy, but that's the honest answer. Cats are, and you know what? They don't just kill snakes, you know, they kill everything. You know, all these beautiful little birds and baby possums, koalas.
I honestly hadn't really, thought about that, but I know that that's true actually for many ecologic systems where there are feral cats. They become this apex predator that's just devastating to that environment. It's hard to beat humans. You know, we're usually the most destructive, for sure. And I'm sure, we've discussed it. You know, there are a lot of people out there that would rather kill the snake than repatriate it or relocate it. But it's also important to know that, feral cats and outdoor cats have an impact on the environment as well. So Luke, we're actually coming up on our 40 minutes time, which it moves so quickly whenever we're together talking about this.
I know. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, you have some great stories, and I'm sure we can catch up again sometime and share some more. I did want to say, if you run out of snakes, I don't know if you just heard, but they just found venomous sharks that are living in the River Thames in London. So if you need to kind of branch out, there's your next thing. It sounds very Australian to be a venomous shark wrangler, for sure.
I'm in for that.
All right, great. Well, Luke, again, thank you so much for spending your time with us. I really would hope that we can have you on again. I want to talk more about this very, very unique profession. I don't think there are many. I think you're a small group of very talented and thoughtful people, and I definitely want to talk again more. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, our audience, for joining us here at World Extreme Medicine. There are lots of podcasts you've been listening to. We're so grateful that you listen to our World Extreme Medicine podcast. We have such a diverse group of guests and some great hosts. We are sure you will enjoy our content. For those of you who missed it this year, we're already planning World Extreme Medicine 2022. It's, again, slated to be just loaded with wonderful content and just a great opportunity for people to get together and meet. And, of course, follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. We're always posting content there. And please visit our website at World Extreme Medicine. We have a great deal of content. We have courses that are coming up. We have job opportunities. And of course, the fellowship is a great opportunity to explore as you engage in world extreme, in austere medicine, in wilderness medicine, in whatever area of this field you're interested in. So thank you again for joining us. I look forward to hearing from all of you. I look forward to hosting you again sometime, Luke, and we'll catch you next time here at World Extreme Medicine. Thank you.